Hi everyone. Since we cover so much content in these Photoshop tutorials, I just wanted to give you a few more examples that might help you out as you work on your project. So in this tutorial, I'm going to give you a few masking and blending examples. I'm going to take this image, blend it into the TV. I'm going to take this image here, mask it and blend it into this tree. And I'm going to use the different repair tools to remove this sign from the rest of the photo. So to begin with, I'm going to take this crack. So I'm originally from Saskatchewan, Canada, right in the coldest middle. And so we go ice fishing, and I took this picture of a crack in the ice. And I'm going to take that crack and use it to make it look like the TV is cracked. And I just want to show you that you don't have to use an actual crack in glass. You can use something totally different and blend it in and make it look like it belongs there. So first thing I'm going to do is just drag this image over and drop it into this composition. It's a lot bigger, so I'll use Control T to free transform it. I'll zoom out to see my edges, and I'm just going to scale it down. I'll hit Enter. Now I want to turn it to get into a good place, so I can do free transform again. I'll just do Control T. Now if I get those arrows on the side, I can rotate it. I think I'm going to go, I think I'll go this way with the crack. And then I'm going to scale it down a bit more. So I'm just going to kind of rotate it into place. I'll hit Enter. And I'm going to lower the opacity just so I can see the screen underneath it and give me a better idea of what I'm doing. Okay, so our image is here. I want to change the perspective of it so it matches the TV a little more. So first thing I'm going to do though is scale it down even more just to get it where I like it. I'll hit Enter. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Perspective, and let's see if we can change the perspective a bit. Okay, I'll hit Enter. Okay, so next thing I want to do is mask it in. I'm just going to bump my opacity back up to 100. Now I could go in with a brush and just brush out the parts I don't want so it fits the screen. But what I'm going to do is actually do my selection on the screen here, because this should be easy to do a quick selection on, and then I'll move over to my crack layer and mask it from this selection. So I'm going to try this with my quick selection tool, make sure I have my TV selected, and I'll just select in there, and that did a really good job of just grabbing the screen that I need. So now that I have this nice screen selection, I'll go back to my crack layer, turn it on, and then I'll just hit my mask icon here. So that masked it out pretty perfectly to the size that we need. I'm just going to feather it a little bit to clean up that edge. So it feathered it nicely, but now we have a little bit of a gap here. So I'm going to try to shift the edge. So if I scroll down in my mask properties, I'll do Select and Mask. And now I can shift the edge. So I can bring it in, or I can push it out. So I'll just fill it to the edge of that screen and hit OK. Alright, so now that we have the cracked layer fitting nicely over the screen, let's try a blend mode to get it to blend into the screen below it. So we'll select not our mask, but our actual layer, and we'll just scroll through some of these to see how they look. The overlay blend mode actually looks really nice. We're blending that crack in nicely with the screen, and we're also getting the original reflections that were in there. So that's a way you can blend two totally different photos. We took a crack from the ice and we put it into this screen. And I don't think you'd be able to tell where this came from originally. Alright, next example, I'm going to take this face from this tree trunk pot and try to put it into an actual tree trunk. So the first thing I'm going to do, again, we'll drag this photo over to this one, drop it in. It's a little big, so I'm going to just do Control T and scale it down. But first, I'm actually going to turn it into a smart object. So if I scale it down too much, I can scale it back up and won't lose any of that quality. I'm going to do Control T to free transform and just scale it down a bit. I think the face could be pretty big. Let's try something like that. First thing we want to do is mask out the part of the face that we want to keep. So I'm going to try my lasso tool for this, and I'll just quickly draw around the face here. I don't want this leaf in here, so I'm going to go around that. And I'm not worried too much about this. I'll come through and clean this up more. Okay, now that we have our selection, I'll hit my mask icon, and we masked out everything around it. I'm going to just feather this out a bit. Blend it in a bit. And now I think we want to scale it up a bit. So I'll select it, Control T, and scale up our image. And now we just want to find a place that looks nice where we can start to blend it. So I like how there's two kind of lines here that match up with these lines here. So I can just line those up together and they kind of match. I'm also going to just tilt it a little bit to match the tree. Maybe go with something like that. I can maybe make them a little smaller. You can also use your arrows to just nudge it over. And when I get it where I like it, I'm just going to hit enter. Alright, so he's starting to blend in. I'll come in with a brush and clean up these edges a bit and try to blend it a little better. But first let's do some color correcting to try to match it better to this tree trunk. So first thing I'm going to do is set an adjustment layer for my hue and saturation. So this one's a little darker than the tree here, so I think we want to lighten it up a little bit. And you'll notice we're lightening up everything, and that's because I didn't hold Alt and set this just to this layer. So with it selected, I'll hold Alt and click, and now it's just going to affect the face layer. So if I brighten it now, we're just brightening that layer. So I think something like that matches the brightness pretty well. We can see if we want to desaturate it, and what that's doing is taking out all of the color. I think we can have a little bit of color in there still, but we might want to shift it. It's a little more yellow than the rest of this. This has a lot of red in it, so we might be able to do that with our hue here. So if we just shift it through, we can see the different colors. And so this way starts to lean it more to that red. We haven't even done any blend modes on the face to the tree, and it actually blends in really nicely already. We might not have to do any. So if we just try our blend modes, that's actually pretty nice because we're getting all that texture from the tree. So it's blending it even nicer. We get the color, we get those cracks from the original tree blending in with the cracks from our face. Yeah, that works well. So I'm going to keep it on dark in color. And maybe now I'll just take a brush and clean up my mask a bit. I need it to be on black and white so I can add or remove from my mask. So I'll just select this little black and white icon above the swatches. And then I need to make sure I'm painting on my mask layer. So I'll select my mask. Now if I paint on that, it's going to take it away with black and add it back with white. I'll just undo that. And I think I'm going to try to add in a bit down here. So I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. And just add in some of this. Right here I'm adding in that leaf, so I don't want that. So I'm going to switch back to black and just paint that out. Switch back to white here, and I can paint more in. I like this brow here. It blends really nicely with the tree, so I want that all in here. Maybe a little of this can come in. Actually, I'm going to blend some of that back out. Yeah, so that's looking nice. So that was an easy way to just quickly blend this face into the tree with some simple masking and some quick color corrections. Okay, now to go on to our repair tools, and I'll be using different tools to remove this sign from the image. First thing I'll do is double click it to unlock that layer, and then I'm going to make a duplicate so I have a backup copy. Alright, to start, first thing I'm going to do is just select it and see how clean the content aware fill takes it out, because that would be the easiest. So I'll just draw around it with my lasso tool. It doesn't have to be perfect. And let's try edit, fill, content aware. Wow, that actually did a really good job just with that tool. So it's still a little muddy in here, but if you were to just look at it, you couldn't even tell that that sign was there originally. And we could go in with the other repair tools and clean that up pretty easily. Okay, I'm just going to delete that. Since the content aware worked a little too easily, I'll try some of the different tools to see if we can also get it out with those. So again, I'll just duplicate this layer. So I'm going to try with my patch tool first, and I think I'm going to try to patch just the part of the sign that's over the green leaves first. So I'll select this part here that's over the green leaves. And I'm just going to drag it to try to find a place that works. Maybe if we patch it from there. That did an okay job up here. I'm not too happy about this, so I'm just going to undo that. And maybe we could try our healing brush tool. So I'll make this a little bigger. And again, this healing brush tool is a lot like the clone stamp, except it's going to try to blend what you're cloning and not just put it right over top. So I'm going to grab from here and then just start to paint it in. You can see it does its best to blend it in with the light, and it's doing a really good job of it. I'll clean this up a little bit. I'm going to grab from here, just paint down. Maybe for this part, I'll make this a little smaller, and we'll just paint straight down the side here. So that did a really good job. We can come in here and clean this up a little more too. Yeah, that's not bad at all. It's a little darker in here than we would want it. So maybe let's try our clone tool for that. I'll delete this out again. I'll duplicate it so we have a backup. And now let's just try our clone stamp. So we want to cover this up. I'm going to grab some of the leaves over here and then just start to paint over. So this just paints it directly without blending it. And sometimes this is the way you want to go because it doesn't always blend it perfectly. Sample from down here and work our way up it. So that looks really good. It looks too duplicated here. We can see the same leaves there as there. So I'm just going to grab some of the leaves from up here and fill that in a bit. So now it's not perfectly matched. Same with here, this blade of grass, you see it twice. I'm going to select some of that and just cover it up a bit. So out of all the methods we tried, I think the clone stamp actually worked the best to take that sign out. Alright, so those are some more examples of masking and blending and using the repair tools to remove out parts of your image. That's going to do it for this tutorial.